What do you think men would dislike most if they became women? I used to think it would be the physical strength difference, but now I'm pretty sure it would be the predatory behavior of men. First thing I thought was, they would hate the way men treat women. My answer: the clear and ever-present danger. I'm pretty sure the first thing to hit them would be the incredible lack of muscle when they try to load groceries in the trunk of the car. And then they would see some man looking at them while they loaded the car, and they'd be like, oh, so this is what being afraid 100% of the time is like. Welcome to womanhood. By the way, that's blood dripping down your leg. The strength thing would still be a hit in the face. Maybe literally, when I take a box down from a high shelf, and rather than being able to control it, it just smashes me in the face, I fall over and I have to call an ambulance. Periods, pregnancy, ill-fitting clothing, constant risk of sexual harassment or assault, not being taken as seriously as before, or not being listened to as much. Man here, and my guess is the lack of basic respect. It already annoys me as a dude. I want to smack people when I have to take over and deal with things because people aren't respecting my wife, because she is a woman, but will jump up off their ass and get it done as soon as I step in and say something. If that is already an annoyance to me as a man, as a woman, I'd probably be in jail for my reaction. Constantly being undermined and treated like your knowledge and input are not valuable. Men are used to being heard and respected by default. The baseline, day-to-day lack of respect for them would be staggering. It's what my trans women friends find the most offensive. I'm told that trans women know that they're actually viewed as women because their opinions get discounted. The way they're treated on a day-to-day basis, I honestly think that would be a lot worse on their psyche than any physical inconvenience or pain. I honestly don't think a lot of guys would be able to handle this disrespect we get on a regular basis, especially since, as women, they wouldn't be able to do the defend your honor crap. We just have to sit there and take it. Otherwise, you're shrill, a harpy, a bitch who can't work with others. Came here to say being treated like a woman, this should be higher. The amount of casual sexual harassment and abuse they deal with. The statistics are bonkers, or endometriosis. Most of us would take a long walk off a short pier with that. All of it. Lower paychecks, professional brush-offs, sexism, more housework, more parental responsibility, periods, cramps, elbows to the boobs, having to do hair and makeup daily, shopping for clothes if they aren't the ideal size, disrespect for being the gender they are. Depends where you are in the world, but many freedoms afforded to men that they would no longer have. Having big breasts. They'd be shocked at how heavy they are and how hard it is to find a bra that actually supports you. Gross men thinking you're a prostitute. How every medical appointment, for any reason, starts with, and when was the date of your most recent period? And then, of course, how any reproductive-related issue ends in, well, losing 5% of your body weight will probably solve that. Oh, and my favorite, how often you get tested for pregnancy. In my 20s, I had an infertility diagnosis, PCOS, and an IUD. The ER doctor still tested me for pregnancy when I needed antibiotics for a tick bite, even after I told him I hadn't had sex in almost a year. You think that's bad? I used to have this doctor, of course a man, who literally asked me every time I saw him, and when is the last time you made love to your boyfriend? I stopped going, because after a while I realized there was literally no reason to ask that question, ever. And he also seemed very keen to give me a pap smear. I was 17. Pervy, gross men, and far, far too many of them. I worked at a department store from ages 16 to 18, and I looked 16 to 18. The number of 40-plus-year-old guys who would hit on me when I was working still disturbs me 30-plus years later. Slightly unrelated, but my partner said this when talking about how annoying periods are. It is insane that biology is so skewed to women having a naturally harder time at just being human. Word. A lot of people are answering with how women are treated, but I think the most striking thing would be the hormonal, mood, and energy changes week to week from our cycles. There is nothing more frustrating than feeling thwarted by one's own body. Pap smear, and will reassure them. You'll just feel a slight pinch. Scotch down. Relax. Scotch down. A little more. Relax. Just a little pinch. Relax. All the creepy men who hound them and don't take no for an answer. I have never understood this logic. Guys who won't take no for an answer surely understand that plenty of other guys are just as persistent, but none of them want a woman who has slept with a bunch of men. So how is that supposed to work? She's simultaneously supposed to say yes to every guy while saying no to every guy who isn't him. Probably this. I live with constant pain, so the period would just be another layer. I'll deal with it. The thought of getting hit on by another guy makes me really uncomfortable. Given how much straight men fear gay men, I'm gonna say they'd hate this the most. Men should make note of the fact that this is the top comment. Having their bodies and lives constantly on the ballot, because their bodies and lives for some reason are subject to everyone else's beliefs and not their own. Being treated the same way they treat women. That's why weak men fear women having equality and hate, fear, or put down gay men. Their biggest fear is being treated the way they treat women, less than, like a sexual object and not a human being. The weaponization of your own emotions against you. Happy? You're a ditzy, silly girl. Sad? You're a baby and probably on your period. Angry? You're a bitch and also probably on your period. Basically, any public emotional expression as a woman can be turned against you. And if you don't show enough emotion, you're a frigid robot. Most men I have interacted with do not have anywhere near the emotional flexibility to navigate that tightrope. That what they think is assertive is instead seen as abrasive, and they are belittled rather than empowered by acting that way. Sad thing is, this attitude is even common from other women. State your opinion or disagreement in a very plain way. Bitch. Mean. Aggressive. It seems especially common with Gen Z women, and it's actually been making it quite hard to make friends with non-millennials. I don't want to preface every opinion in a conversation with, "You're totally valid, of course, but," or "I'm not attacking you, but," or some other variation on, "This isn't an act of open hostility like they do." Drives me crazy. There's a big difference between expressing an opinion in a hostile way and expressing an opinion without simultaneously apologizing for it. How unsafe the world can feel. Women deal with danger daily. Catcalling, getting harassed or assaulted, or even just walking alone at night feels frightening. There's probably more places in the world where it's not safe to be a woman alone than not. Aside from the obvious physical differences and new challenges they present, I would say being really good and skilled at something and then having people take your work less seriously because of something as irrelevant as gender. How difficult it is to get taken seriously when you need medical care. Edit. Even if, like me, you're a size 4. How difficult it is to be taken seriously. Full stop. Or even just having your pain or pain tolerance taken seriously. When I got my first IUD from Planned Parenthood and they told me it would just be a pinch, then proceeded to hit me with one of the worst pains I've ever felt. The first pap smear I ever had I was holding in tears because of how big the speculum was. Then I finally got insurance and was able to see an actual OBGYN, who, A, gave me local anesthetic to remove my copper guard and replace it with Mirena, and B, simply used a smaller speculum. I didn't know either of these things were even options. No one had ever told me. Edit. Speculum, not scapula. Thanks for the commenter who pointed this out. I've had trouble getting medical care from doctors of all genders. In fact, I've had the absolute worst experiences with women for some reason. I think there's too big of a portion of doctors that take the "wow, you're a doctor" swoon mentality too seriously and just condescend to everyone beneath them. I'm a female PhD for context, and my coworkers and I have found it a pretty universal phenomenon that doctors instantly start taking you seriously if they see the doctor by your name. The ones that didn't bother to even look at your name, though, not much hope for them. Not being taken seriously generally. They're so accustomed to assumed competence and validity, they'd all end up with grippy sock vacations. Saying something funny on purpose and the man explaining to you that, unbeknownst to you, what you said could be interpreted as a joke. Having leaky genitalia. Get turned on? Leaks. Certain time of month? Leaks. Needs cleaning? Leaks. Baby batter injected? Leaks. Baby's ready? Leaks. Baby did damage? Leaks. P. Got an infection? Leaks. Getting old? Leaks. It's a random freaking Tuesday? Leaks. As a man, this sounds like an unending nightmare of moisture and maintenance. No thank you. Most leaks are fine. It's the period blood clots that aren't. Feels like a hot slug sliding out, and some can pass multiple during their periods. As a woman, I always thought random boners sounded horrifying. I was always so thankful I had to deal with that embarrassment. How, if you're a lone female in a room or a meeting full of males, they gloss over what you say or ignore comments, but when the exact idea is repeated by a male, it's suddenly brilliant. I really thought this was a trope. Sure, it happens sometimes, but maybe it's the personality in the room, and then experienced it directly multiple times in the space of a month. There was a man in the room who could see it happening, bless him. Repeated what I said with, I think that follows on from the point competitive pay made right? Or similar 3 times in the space of 5 minutes. And to be fair, it was women ignoring what I was saying just as much as the men. It was just so obvious as to be comedic. I remember thinking, if this was like a comedy skit, it wouldn't even be believable. How much of your mental energy is taken up with thinking about your personal safety? And how much shit you get for trying to take sensible safety precautions? And how much shit you get when something happens to you regardless of what precautions you take? There is literally no way to win. Because if nothing happens, you were clearly just being paranoid, and if something happens, it's because you weren't trying to protect yourself hard enough. Navigating the medical system, being harassed and then told to take it as a compliment, being blamed for what you wear constantly, never being a good enough wife, sister, daughter, or mother, because the goalposts of what makes a good woman are constantly shifting. Experiencing a tsunami in your undies when you sneeze on your period, periods in general. Maybe not most, but a notable addition, how long it takes for a woman to get revved up for sex instead of being ready at the drop of a hat. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.